Oh, last minute emails. Hey, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. We just watched a film called Spring Life, which was an excuse to show a bunch of nature footage. The film itself was probably released in the 30s, and the stuff might have been shot as early as the 20s. It's hard to tell with these films because they were often edited down from other things and smushed together, and it was kind of a wild frontier back in the day. Anyways, I am Skip Elsheimer, and this is AV Geeks, and we watch old 16mm educational films. And this next one we're going to watch is a traffic safety film. Actually, I have a couple of traffic safety films here. That's just coincidentally. Anyways, this one's for pedestrians. So this is Step Lightly.
My name is John Daly, and my line of work has kept me involved in many facets of radio and television. All of my years in the news field have required that I be as well informed on current events as possible. Well, this often means spending many hours of research time in getting the facts behind the headlines, in analyzing the many statistics that most people just don't have time to dig out for themselves. Then, and only then, can I give an unbiased report of my findings. Well, this particular report should be an eye-opener in many ways, an inside story that I call Step Lightly.
Good night, Hal.
Good night. You're all familiar with the headlines that point up the critical seriousness of the traffic accident problems throughout this country of ours. The headlines that add up to over 50,000 people killed and over 2.5 million injured every year at an annual cost to the nation in excess of $10 billion. There's a story behind this and behind these headlines that most people aren't fully aware of. Did you know that 20% of these deaths and injuries are not a driver or even a passenger in an automobile? 1 out of every 5 is a person on foot. 1 out of every 5 traffic casualties is a pedestrian. That's over 10,000 pedestrians killed every year and over 500,000 injured. That may come as a surprise, but did you know that more than half of these accidents happen after dark, even though the number of pedestrians and vehicles out at night is far below the number during the day? It happens every night, just like this. The University of California's Institute of Transportation and Traffic Engineering filmed these scenes, using realistic, life-size dummies to show the effects on the human body of being struck at only 30 miles per hour. But this same thing is happening thousands of times every night to real people. And in most cases, it happens because the pedestrian is lost in the surrounding darkness and the driver just can't see him in time to stop. For years, people have been considered reasonably safe walking down the highway after dark if they were wearing white or light-colored outer clothing. But studies show that even white garments aren't as visible to oncoming drivers as most people think. Here are 4 pedestrians. At about 55 feet, the one with dark clothing disappeared. At 80 feet, the second pedestrian with red clothing disappeared. And at 180 feet, even the person in white clothing is invisible to the motorist. How fast can a motorist react and stop his vehicle after he has seen a pedestrian? In this demonstration, a cardboard cutout is used to represent a pedestrian. At 30 miles per hour on a flat, dry road, a distance of 72 feet is required for the average driver to react and stop. Had this been a child in dark clothing, he could have been a casualty. At 60 miles per hour, the odds are 100% that he would have been. At 60 miles per hour, the stopping distance is increased to 260 feet. Even stark white clothing fails to provide complete protective nighttime visibility. Add rain and the glare of oncoming headlights or the effects of alcohol, and the driver has even less time to avoid an accident. White clothing simply cannot offer all the protection you need at night, nor can the bright fluorescent colors. Fluorescent colors are great on overcast days or at dusk, but at night, they actually prove to be no more visible than ordinary clothing. To be safe at night, you must be seen. If white or fluorescent cloth won't protect pedestrians, what will? Reflective materials will. Reflective materials that are specially designed and manufactured for pedestrians. These special reflective materials return the light from headlights directly back to the driver. Although the person wearing the reflective material can't see this reflection, the driver of the car gets a brilliant reflected signal in plenty of time to avoid an accident. Now, reflective materials aren't new. Many states use them on license plates. And everybody recognizes the familiar red stop sign that flashes the same red warning at night that it does by day. Reflective signs warn of dangerous turns, provide information, alert you to road hazards. Reflectors or lights are now required by law on the sides and rear of trucks and automobiles to make them visible to drivers at night. But reflectors are not required by law for the protection of pedestrians, who are the most vulnerable of all nighttime users of the roads. Many pedestrians whose work requires them to be on roadways at night already wear reflective materials, and it makes good sense. Policemen, trainmen, paper boys, firemen. In fact, almost all the fire coats purchased in America are reflectorized. What about the rest of us? It makes sense for us, too, to take advantage of this kind of protection. These tags, for instance, are commonplace in Europe. Pinned to your pocket or pocketbook, they're carried just as easily as your car keys. When you're out at night, just drop them out to flash a bright warning as the tag twists and turns from the normal movement of your walking. The reflected light attracts the attention of oncoming motorists and gives them ample time to react. Inconspicuous reflectors can even be applied to the instep of shoes. These reflectors in no way change the appearance of shoes and are all but hidden during the day. But at night, they stand out brilliantly in the beams of headlights. It's hard to believe that the sole of your shoe is this visible when you walk, but there it is. Good-looking reflective materials are easily applied to canes, hats, umbrellas, briefcases, and pocketbooks, or styled into attractive emblems and wearing apparel. They can be designed as attractive appliques that will enhance the appearance of the garment by day and give brilliant protection at night. More and more clothing manufacturers are trimming their outerwear garments with reflective materials, a great move toward nighttime protection for pedestrians without sacrificing style. Just how effective are these reflective materials? Well, here again are the four pedestrians in a combination of dark and light clothing. This time, they are joined by four pedestrians who are identically dressed, except that they're using reflective materials designed for pedestrians. Briefcase markings, reflective buttons and trim, reflective material under the cuffs and collar, and each one also has reflectors on the instep of his shoe. The four pedestrians without reflective markings are lost in the darkness at a distance of about 180 feet. But the four pedestrians with reflective markings will be brightly visible at distances of over 500 feet. Now, recalling that it takes about 260 feet to react and stop a car at 60 miles per hour, we know that the four pedestrians with reflective markings are provided with safe nighttime visibility. Night visibility for the pedestrian means everybody, not just the people who work at hazardous jobs. As soon as you leave your car, step off a bus, or walk out the front door of your house, you are a pedestrian. And if you aren't wearing reflective materials, you're an invisible pedestrian, the most vulnerable kind. People on foot are not the only ones experiencing this tragic increase in nighttime accidents. Each year, over 2,000 motorcyclists and 700 bicyclists are killed in accidents involving motor vehicles. Again, a large number of these accidents occur needlessly during the hours of darkness. Of course, all motorcycles and bicycles should carry the approved rear reflectors, and when broken or damaged, they should be replaced. However, a high number of cyclist accidents occur when the cycle is crossing the roadway. Reflectorization added to the side of the cycle itself identifies the object to the motorist and gives visibility protection to anyone riding it. But since the rider actually makes up over 50% of the visible area, it is important that both the vehicle and the rider be made visible with reflective materials. Well, since we have seen reflective materials on traffic signs, on license plates, and even on some policemen and firemen, why then haven't we used reflective protectors ourselves? Maybe it's because we haven't realized how invisible we really are. And another reason may be that it just never occurred to us that there is this inexpensive and simple way to let the motorist know that we're out there in front of him without worrying about having a flashlight that works or having it available when we need it. The Consumer Protection and Environmental Health Service of the United States government is doing something about it. They are conducting demonstrations like this for public officials and public service groups to assist them in setting up programs in their local communities to encourage pedestrians to use reflective materials at night. Of all people using the roads and streets of our nation, the pedestrian is the slowest and most ill-equipped for the uneven match of man versus machine. Yet this slow-moving, unprotected road user is the only one who is allowed on public roads at night without any light or reflector whatsoever. It is not mandatory at this time for pedestrians to protect themselves and the drivers of motor vehicles by carrying lights or wearing retroreflective materials. So, the choice is yours. You can make certain that you and all the members of your family, young and old alike, use protective reflectors, or gamble on being responsible for increasing the tragic casualty statistics of our nation. That's my story behind the headlines, my story of Step Lightly. I feel that the motorist has the right to be warned of the pedestrian on the road at night. No one wants to go through life knowing that he has killed or severely injured another person. And for the pedestrian, It's a matter of life itself. The time to shed some light on pedestrian visibility is now, not the night after tragedy.
Such jaunty music for walking on the highway or street at night. And it's kind of an interesting thing. Now, where would they show this? I don't know. I mean, maybe driver's ed, but, you know, it's about pedestrian safety. So you show it, you know, at civic events, because you don't have official meetings of pedestrians. You know, it's if someone's getting their license, then you can sit them all in a room and say you have to watch this before you get your license, but I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing to think about. All right, it's time to watch a film that's on the telecine we got set up over here. And this is part of that series that CBS did, the You Are There series. And this one, can't wait to see what special celebrities are in this film. This one is Paul Revere's Ride. And this one was done in early 70s, I think 70, 71. Enjoy.
April 18th, 1775. The New World edges closer to revolution as English colonists continue to break the King's Law. Main trouble spot is the colony of Massachusetts, where farmers are known to have hidden guns and ammunition for possible use against British troops. The British Army has sent out search parties trying to find these hidden arsenals. If the colonists are warned in time, there's bound to be a battle. And once that happens, the colonies may be plunged into a direct war with England, the country that many Americans still consider their native land.
April 18th, 1775. Paul Revere's Ride. You are there.
Last September, a group of prominent Americans from the different colonies came together in a Continental Congress to organize the protest against British laws they considered unjust. The British have struck back hard, particularly in Massachusetts, which has been the center of resistance. They have forbidden town meetings, they've closed the port of Boston, and occupied the city with 5,000 troops. We now have heard that all roads out of Boston are blocked by British patrols. The reason for this is not known, but it is the kind of move that could easily trigger an explosion. CBS News correspondent David Culhane has been covering American activities inside Boston and is on the scene now. All things are as they were then, except
You are there.
David, does anyone know yet why the roads are blocked?
Not where I am, Walter. This is the road leading south out of Boston, and no one seems to know anything. The soldiers aren't talking, and the townspeople are just mad. The people you see here are mostly workmen with jobs outside the city, and the loss of a day's wages is important to them. Since the British closed the port, more than 7,000 people have been forced to go on relief. Sir, do you know why the road has been blocked?
Because the British are blockheads. They block the roads, they block our ports. They think they can starve us into rolling over with our paws in the air.
Well, what effect is it having?
There's one effect for you. Water and slops today. If they keep up, we'll have powder and bullets for them tomorrow. Or maybe before tomorrow.
The men over there are talking to Paul Revere, the silversmith, who is also a leading figure in the American liberty movement. This movement is constantly fed information about the British by the tradespeople and workmen of the city. David Culhane, CBS News, on the outskirts of the city of Boston.
CBS News correspondent Richard C. Hoddlett has been covering the British story.
Walter, I'm at British headquarters in Boston with General Thomas Gage, Governor of Massachusetts and commander of all British troops in the American colonies. With General Gage are a captain on his staff and a visitor, Colonel Timothy Ruggles, an American, formerly of Hardwick, Massachusetts, now a well-known Tory, as American supporters of the British are called. General Gage, does that troop activity mean your soldiers are preparing to move out in some kind of action?
Possibly.
Can you tell us what kind of action?
You will know that when and if they move.
General, Massachusetts must be made safe for law-abiding citizens.
A whipping, sir. We must whip respect for the law.
You make it sound simple, gentlemen.
It will be simple, sir. Look, we have the roads blocked here, 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 and here. We will surprise them, sir. We will discover what they have hidden, and I promise you, sir, this time they will whistle a different tune when we have finished with them.
We will find powder and cannon in Concord, but there are much more powerful explosives in Lexington.
Sir?
Hancock. I heard they were in Lexington. Are you certain, General?
So I'm told.
I would give much to see those two at the end of a rope.
I'm sure they feel as warmly about you.
They are traitors, General.
These colonists are all traitors, sir. They break our laws, they mock our troops, they hide guns in order to use them against us.
The guns are not as important.
Not as important as what, sir? They'll form an army with those guns.
Not as important as men. Men are more important, Captain. Certain men especially. Leaders. The men other men listen to. Dr. Joseph Warren here in Boston. Samuel Adams, John Hancock here in Lexington. They lead the rebellion in Massachusetts, and others follow that lead all over the colonies.
Lexington is on the way to Concord. We can stop easily enough for Hancock and Adams.
You have the authority, General. Cut off their head. The body dies.
You sound like the British Parliament. Arrest the leaders, send them back, we'll string them up. Easy statements from 3,000 miles away. But if I arrest Adams and Hancock, I'll not only have discontented farmers on my hands, I'll have a rebellion.
We'll have that, whatever you do. These are no longer men of reason. All they understand is force.
I'm here to keep order, not provoke rebellion. They must be given no time to resist. I want no fighting.
Sir, when they see the British army drawn up on the Concord Common, there will be no resistance.
You must surprise them. They have a warning system, you know. We found that out before when our search parties returned empty-handed.
They've never had to send a messenger through a full blockade before.
And we cannot completely hide our plans. Not in a city where the man who cuts your hair is also ready to cut your throat. Half of Boston may know.
Forgive me, sir, but it is one thing to know in Boston. It's quite another to know in Concord, 18 miles away.
We must spike that warning system. Their chief messenger, Paul Revere, the one they call the Patriot Express.
Yes, sir. We held him prisoner before our raid in Salem. We can do it again.
No. I want as little suspicion aroused as possible. His house is checked, is it not?
Yes, the homes of all the chief rebels. Dr. Warren, Paul Revere. We check continuously.
Then check as usual. No more. All as normal as possible. If they do suspect and send a messenger, we'll trap him at the blockade.
A mouse will not leave Boston unnoticed tonight, sir.
Unfortunately, we are not dealing with mice. All right, Captain. I shall issue immediate orders to move out. 700 men against Concord.
And Lexington. What about Adams and Hancock?
Yes. Well, if you should come across either of these two gentlemen, I would like a word with them.
Motor Cronkite again. CBS News correspondent David Culhane has made his way to the home of Dr. Joseph Warren, one of Boston's most popular physicians and a leader of the liberty movement among the Americans. He probably is the top leader still in Boston.
Dr. Warren is waiting here in his examining room together with Robert Newman, sexton of Christ Church. Dr. Warren, what are your plans now that the British are on the march?
Obviously, to tell the people at Concord as quickly as we can. Sit yourself down, Robert. You'll strain your eyes.
I thought I saw Mr. Revere.
More likely a patrol will see you. Sit down.
Can you get a messenger through the blockade? General Gage has taken extraordinary precautions.
Then we shall have to send an extraordinary messenger. Robert, you're making me nervous.
I'm no one who's nervous, Dr. Warren. Redcoats living in my house. You're a doctor. That's the only reason they didn't put them in here. Drinking and singing. When I left tonight, they wanted to know where I was off to. To see a girl, I said. I'd be less nervous if Mr. Revere would get here.
Dr. Warren, if your messenger does get through, do you think a battle would then be avoided?
That, sir, depends on the British.
They're only enforcing the law.
A tyrannical law, sir. They tax our tea and our trade. They force us to buy stamps before we sell our goods. They close our ports. And all without our having a say, a single vote in any of this. Would you have us observe that kind of law?
Such talk could be called treason, Doctor.
To obey such laws is treasonous. Oh, perhaps not against the king, but against human dignity and self-respect. I would rather be treasonous to a king.
Even if it means hanging?
They cannot hang us all.
Here he comes.
Greetings. You have the report.
They're ferrying the troops across the water.
A shorter route.
Our people will be across the river watching from Charlestown. I told them we'd show one light if the troops are marching and two if they're crossing by boat.
How will you get through?
The night is dark.
There's a gunboat patrolling and they've got torches lit up and down the
The
bank.
better to row by, Robert.
Paul, when you get to Charlestown, have them send out as many riders as they can. They're to alert the Minutemen and the militia in every town they can reach. The ones closest to Concord go there to help its defense. The others, get ready for the British when they head back to Boston. We'll show them a squirrel gun behind every tree.
Done, Joseph.
You go on to Lexington. Adams and Hancock are at the parsonage there. Warn them. Tell them I think the British are after them more than the gunpowder. They must get away before the troops arrive. Sam Adams. He's our spark. And my friend. Without him, I would still see man, as they taught me in medical school, as only a breeding place for disease. He showed me the health in man. What a man could be if he fought for himself. Hurry, Paul.
I'll be swift.
Will he get through?
He'll do his part. Now we must do ours. Get to the church. They're crossing by water, so it's two lights you must show. Hurry.
British soldiers have arrived at the home of Paul Revere, waiting for him to return. We're trying to find out their purpose. Lieutenant, are you planning to arrest Mr. Revere?
He's committed no crime that I know of.
Then why are you there?
We pay visits occasionally to members of the community.
Spot checks, you mean?
You might call them that. I'm only waiting until your husband arrives. Those are my orders, madam. He does fine work. Fine as any I've seen in London. I'm told he's the best silversmith in Boston.
The best in America.
Perhaps I might return one day and purchase some of these.
There is nothing for sale.
I'm not here of my own desire, madam. It's my duty. Truly, I don't consider Americans as my enemy. We're the same blood. We're countrymen. I'd much prefer to be fighting the French.
Then go and fight them.
I must follow orders, madam.
There is a higher order. Have you ever considered following that?
It seems so curious to me. A man of talent, substance, setting himself against the law, risking his life. I'd like to know why, if you'd tell me. For myself.
My husband is a man of feeling as well as talent. And substance does not come from wealth or position, but from character. If things were different, he would never quit his bench.
And you approve of what he does?
I share it, sir.
Well, why has he been chosen?
He sits a horse well, he's devoted to the cause of American liberty, and he's eloquent, sir. That may seem strange in a man who works with his hands. It's no secret. He rides for our cause, but you should hear him argue for it.
But your children, yourself, aren't you afraid of what might happen to you if your husband continues to break the law?
I'm more afraid of what might happen to us if my husband did not act upon his convictions.
The square is full of redcoats. They must be planning a parade. Sir, how are the children?
Trying to sleep. It's difficult with the British Army tramping through the house.
Simply making a check, sir, to see that you're at home.
Yes, well, I am at home.
I've no wish to intrude on your privacy. Just following orders, you understand. I'd prefer to be at home.
How do you plan to go?
Bentley and Richardson will row me across the river. Then, by horse.
Will you be back tomorrow?
Yes. Oh, that piece. It needs reworking.
You'll be late.
They're heading for the Common. Take care.
And you.
CBS News correspondent Mike Wallace has arrived at the home of the Reverend Jonas Clark in Lexington, Massachusetts. Are there any new developments, Mike?
Not yet, Walter. So far, the British have not arrived, but neither is any messenger. The atmosphere is very tense here. Everybody is expecting trouble, but nobody knows when it will come or from what direction. The two men you see are Samuel Adams and John Hancock. Mr. Adams, you're aware that the British troops have moved out of Boston.
Naturally.
Yet you're staying here at Lexington?
Well, there's no point in leaving until we know where they're coming and when they're coming. You could just as easily walk into a trap. John, I haven't finished.
Well, then you'll continue to wait for a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
For how long, Mr. Hancock?
Until he comes.
Suppose the British come first. Will there be a battle?
Trust not, Mr. Wallace.
You think the farmers will turn over their guns?
They will not turn over their guns.
And you're saying there will be a battle?
There will be a battle. If the British come first, second, last, whenever they come. If they come at all, there will be a battle.
You sound like you want one, Mr. Adams.
That's your interpretation, sir. It is not mine.
But you're the one who's been preaching the use of force.
The colonists will use force only if force is used against them. That was the policy laid down at the First Continental Congress, and it will be observed.
Still, the colonists are the ones who are taking up arms.
Because our oppressors already have them.
But that's against the law.
The law. The law. Whose law?
There must be a law of the land, Mr. Adams. Else men become savages.
There must be a just law of the land, or else a few men become tyrants while most become slaves.
Don't you believe there are ways of changing unjust laws without violence?
The violence is in the injustice, sir. That's the primary violence. The force that is used to make men free is not the same, either in the eyes of God or men, as the violence that is used to make them slaves. They've sent Revere. I'm sure of that. Notice Paul Revere, he'll get through. If there is no battle here today, there will be one elsewhere tomorrow. We cannot prevent a battle. If you don't understand that, you understand nothing.
You are saying that war with England is inevitable.
Unless the rulers of England are prepared to change.
Well, how, Mr. Hancock? In what way?
They will not change. It's a delusion to think they will. They must put an end to us once and for all. We're a bad example to them. You speak of violence. It is not our violence they fear, but the violence of their own people. We say we will not be taxed unless represented in Parliament. You know what fat King George truly fears? 29 out of 30 Englishmen cannot vote in their own land. They, too, are taxed without being represented, and they, too, one day will rise and resist and say no to injustice, no and no again. That's what the king fears, sir.
Then you think the differences cannot be settled?
Oh, they will be settled. Oh, yes, they will be settled sooner than you think.
Does Samuel Adams really want them settled?
I want liberty, sir. Liberty, freedom. You think I have blood in my heart because I see war coming. I have another vision, too. I see a nation, a free nation, born in bloodshed, yes. There is no birth without blood. And once England sends her troops to shoot down American farmers, as they have already massacred Boston citizens, when that happens, a wave of rebellion will be set in motion that will end with America totally enslaved, or else a nation by and for itself.
With the differences settled, by force and bloodshed.
We will not shed the first blood, sir. He's here, Revere's come.
No, we will not shed the first blood. We'll not have to. But we shall certainly shed the last.
So Paul Revere arrived in time to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock, and the two American leaders made their escape before the British could capture them. Another messenger went on to warn the people of Concord. By the time the British troops got there, 500 Americans were waiting for them. The war for the independence of America had begun. Paul Revere, a man who wanted nothing more than to work with pewter and silver, had helped start a revolution. What sort of day was it? A day like all days, filled with those events that alter and illuminate our time. And you were there.
Wow, I wasn't kidding when it came to celebrity cameos. This one was chock full. So good. Bert Convy, David Burney. There's your 70s, your late 60s, early 70s TV fare. Those actors showed up a lot. Then E.G. Marshall. And then Christopher Walken, a young Christopher Walken. That was awesome. And then, of course, our favorite CBS correspondents, Mike Wallace and Walter Cronkite. Man, that's just half the fun right there, is to see like who's playing what. So I might pull some more of those, and we'll watch some more in the future. You know, it's a unique idea on how to portray historic events. You know, using the news format, kinda. It's a weird variation, but anyways. So why don't we watch Freeway for Driving? Freeway Driving is different. And so it'll run a little bit longer than our 2 o'clock slot, but you guys are cool with that, right? And also you can buy some coffee. We like coffee. It's cold here, and we like hot coffee. So here you go.
Hello, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas. For many long years, it has been my pleasure to bring you reports from the far corners of the globe. These reports have ranged from Tibet to the Andes, from the inner desert of Australia to the ice fields of the polar regions. Of course, it's a good idea to stay at home once in a while. If you don't, you lose sight of the fact that some of the greatest stories of all are to be found right in your own backyard. This, perhaps, is such a story. For centuries, as we all know, men have been concerned with the building of roads. The Great Wall of China is one. It not only served as a vast protective barrier, but men actually traveled on top of the Great Wall of China and still do. And then, of course, there were those magnificent roads built by the Romans. Some of them are still in existence. I've even traveled on ancient Roman roads in Arabia. And then there's the Appian Way into Rome. I've been over that several times in the last year or two. It's still in operation. Perhaps one of the greatest road builders of all was that fellow Adolf Hitler. His blitzkrieg concept of warfare depended on great roads, hence the Autobahn, the highways that still crisscross Germany. All of these were roads of conquest. They were built for death and destruction to a considerable extent. Today, we here in America are at work on road building, a program which will dwarf any of the efforts of mankind in years gone by. Conceived not for war, not for conquest, but designed for the peaceful enjoyment of all of us. But will they perhaps be the bloodiest roads of all? That depends. It depends on you and on me. Unless the motoring public learns to use them properly, for freeway driving, well, it's different from other driving. We've got to learn how to get on them, then how to drive on them, and how to drive off them. Use them safely, and then we can enjoy them to the fullest. Listen, if you will, to this traffic engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Yes, freeway driving is different, but it can be a wonderful experience. And it's an experience more and more of us will be enjoying. This map shows existing roads and those being built. As you can see, there are a lot of them. Now, these new roads, call them what you will, superhighways, expressways, freeways, simply mean roads having free access. They're easy to get onto and off of. They're designed to eliminate traffic conflicts and to move traffic rapidly and safely. Let's take a look at some of yours. First, this divider strip. It separates traffic moving in opposite directions. This is the danger of head-on collisions. At night, headlight glare is far less. On our new freeways, there are no steep grades. Curves are easy. Lanes are wide, and you can see long distances ahead. There are broad paved shoulders. There are no crossroads, no stop signs or traffic lights. Before we discuss how to drive on a freeway, we must first become familiar with how to get on them correctly. Now, here's the way it works. First, observe the signs. Then select the right entrance for your destination. This is important, for once you're on the freeway, you may not be able to go in the opposite direction for many miles. The entrance ramp leads directly to the acceleration lane. Here you increase your speed to about that of traffic already traveling on the freeway. As you build up speed, watch for a good, safe gap in the freeway traffic into which you can merge. This merging involves give and take between the entering driver and those already traveling on the freeway. But it's the responsibility of the entering driver to fit his car into the existing traffic stream without conflict. Now, once you're on the freeway, why is it any different than driving on any other good road? Well, for one thing, you must adjust to faster speeds. At high speeds, inattention for even a second can lead to trouble. Coming upon a barricade or road repair equipment unexpectedly when traveling at high speeds can be fatal. At any rate, it calls for fast thinking. When driving in heavy traffic on urban freeways, emergencies of any kind increase your need to be alert. Of course, like on any road, you must adjust your speed to driving conditions. What might be a safe speed on a bright, clear day might be an unsafe speed under different conditions. In heavy smog, or when it's foggy, rainy, or under snow and ice conditions. Slow up, play it safe. Now here's another problem we all have to face up to honestly if we're to be safe drivers. What about our personal limitations? What about our hearing, our eyesight, our reactions? At fast freeway speeds, any emergency may require faster reactions than we can meet unless we make allowances for that possibility. So we may have to change some of our driving habits. You should never suddenly stop or slow down with no good reason. If you should drive past the exit you intended to use, don't brake and slow down suddenly. You might be struck by the car following. Maintain your speed because you'll have to go on to the next exit. Now, a question often asked is, which lane should I drive in? Well, that depends somewhat on your speed. Generally speaking, faster traffic uses the left lane, slower traffic the right lane. So select the proper lane and then adjust your speed to that of the traffic in your lane. If you overtake and pass cars frequently, either slow down to the lane speed or move to the faster lane. A steady flow of vehicles in the same lane traveling at the same speed makes freeway driving pleasant and moves traffic smoothly. So keep the pace. To change lanes, increase your speed a bit and catch up to a traffic gap rather than wait for a gap to catch up with you. In extremely heavy traffic, there may not be any gaps. In that case, you should signal and edge over a bit to indicate you need a gap. Usually, other drivers will let you in. Faster freeway speed means you must signal farther in advance than on an ordinary road to warn drivers behind you that you're going to move to the left. Before making your move, check your mirrors. Check your blind spot. When you're sure there's a long enough gap, start well back of the car ahead and move to the left lane in a smooth, easy sweep. Now, a question that's often asked, what's a safe following distance on freeways? Well, the highway rule is stay back 1 car length for every 10 miles of speed. For instance, at 70 miles per hour, you should allow at least 7 car lengths. Faster freeway driving makes this a must rule. In fact, you should stay back more than 1 car length, if possible, for every 10 miles of speed. But in heavy traffic, in and around cities, these distances simply aren't kept. If you try to maintain proper distance, other cars will cut in ahead and fill the gaps. Under these circumstances, you must be especially alert and ready for an emergency stop, for rear-end collisions are the most frequent and serious of freeway accidents. So, keep your distance. Now, something entirely different. It's called freeway drowsiness, or freeway hypnosis. The very advantages that freeways offer contribute to this. Long, straight stretches of road, no cross traffic, your eyes fixed on a point straight ahead, mile after mile at sustained speed, you become inattentive, drowsy. You begin to lose contact with reality. At the very first sign of drowsiness, get more air into the car. Then get off the freeway as soon as you can. If there's a rest area, pull in and park. Walk around or take a nap. The important thing is never ignore drowsiness or lapses of attention, because the harder you try to stay awake, the sleepier you're apt to become. So don't fight it. Stop at once and take a break. Now, another thing we need to know. That's how to meet freeway emergencies, no matter what the emergency. Engine trouble, out of gas, illness, whatever it is, never stop on the freeway. Always get off the road onto the shoulder as far as possible. If you need help, raise the hood. Tie something white to the radio antenna or the left front door handle. Wait for assistance. Never attempt to walk or hitch a ride. Freeways are no place for pedestrians. Of course, the smart thing is to prevent emergencies. Your car should be in good condition. Always have good tires and keep them properly inflated. Have the attendant check your fan belt, radiator level, oil level, and the battery. And be sure you have ample fuel. It's a good idea to refill when down to the last quarter tank. Remember the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, now that we've discussed getting on and driving on freeways, the next question is, how do we get off them correctly? First, know how to identify your exit. Learn its name or route number in advance. Also, it's a good idea to know the exit just before yours so you can be alert for your exit. When you spot your exit sign, move to the right lane. As you come to the deceleration zone, move over into it, and then begin reducing your speed. Check your speedometer, and be sure you're slowed to the posted speed for your exit ramp. This is important, because once off the freeway, you will be sharing a smaller roadway with other cars coming toward you. Also, there will be crossroads with cars and pedestrians to watch for. Yes, freeway driving is different. And it's something all of us, even the most experienced drivers, must learn. Enjoy the one-way traffic, the special purpose lanes, the easy grades and curves, the controlled access roads. Build up speed on the acceleration lane. Check traffic, spot a gap, merge at or near freeway speed. Be alert. Stay in your lane. Maintain proper speed. Overtake and pass correctly. Keep your distance. At the first sign of drowsiness, get off the road. In case of emergency, get completely off the road onto the shoulder. Stay with your car until help comes. Know your exit. Get into proper lane for your exit in advance. Reduce speed sufficiently on deceleration lane. Our fine new freeways have been designed to provide a more convenient, safer journey for all of us.
Getting the most out of our freeways in convenience, in pleasure, and safety, that depends on you and on me. Let's do it. So long.
Some of you recognized our Calvin actor, the guy with the glasses, who did most of the talking. Lowell Thomas kind of did their intro and outro, but most of the driving was, or most of the talking was done by that guy Calvin, who plays a bunch of managers who are having problems with, I don't know, women, with other employees, with other managers. It's a constant source of problems. He also shows up in the film called ABCs of Film Direction, where he talks about different types of camera angles and calls all the women girls. Thanks for tuning in today. There's lots of interesting stuff that we got to see. Really want to dig deeper into the You Are There series and see. I have some from the 70s and I have some from the 50s when it originally aired, which I think will be pretty cool. Just so you know, tomorrow I'll be here, 1 o'clock, but I will also be doing, competing against the Found Footage Festival, our 4 jingles that you guys voted on over the last, it was like 2 weeks ago. We will be competing. If I lose, which would be really horrible, then I lose this amazing clown Thanksgiving painting that was found in a thrift store. I'm assuming it's Thanksgiving because there's a clown that has a pie, and there's a clown that's eating a turkey leg, but it's kind of small. Then he has a pilgrim hat. I don't know. It might not be a clown Thanksgiving, but I'm calling it that. Anyways, yeah, so it'll be 9 o'clock live tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. And I'll mention it again tomorrow, obviously. We'll talk about it. Everybody have a good rest of your day. If you like what you saw, you can certainly buy us some coffee, some caffeine. I made my first thing of coffee here at the archive, which was great. Felt really good. The coffee just woke up my nervous system. Also, you can tell the world that you like AV Geeks by hitting like, subscribe, ringing the notification bell, commenting, sharing, telling people what we do, because it's all about the eyeballs. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time. Please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Everybody take care, please.